Hey guys, welcome to another server update. I know in the last video the audio quality wasn't that great, so I'm trying a different solution and let's hope that goes better. So in this video I wanted to talk about the hot swap base and about predetermining what kind of cables you're going to need for a certain build. If you don't do these builds more often, it can be a lot of guesswork in how long and what type of cables you need. So let's take a look at that. But first let's take a look at the hot swap base I like to use for the SSDs. So I've already removed these screws. And as you can see, you find two open bays here, and this one is still closed. The reason for that is, normally, this tray would sit in here, and it's held in place by a latch. And you can remove that, but then still this thing had, well, what I call a little ceiling or something like that. And it was inside of here, kind of like this, and there's protruding bits through which it gets screwed in, and, well, you get the drift. It kind of on there like that. So after a little bit of screw work, because they are just held in by screws, I removed those and I bought some 3.5-inch 2x SSD drive bays. Now these are actually pretty cheap. They cost about 20 bucks a piece, and they just give you a little hot swap lever, and you can pull out the tray, mount your SSD, and just put it back in like that, and you get a little key with it so you can lock it. As I said, pretty cheap, and the nice thing, it does add some status LEDs so you can see drive activity, and once they're mounted in here, they're easy to hot swap. You don't have to open this chassis and stuff like that. So although this fits, you can't really mount it in here because these bays aren't made for normal 3.5-inch devices. And normally you could mount a hard disk or something else in here, like this, but, well, that kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think? And also, there aren't really mounting holes, except on the bottom, and although that would work for a disk, this isn't a disk. So, that won't work. But they do fit very nicely in here. And I would still like to use them. As I said, I like the status LEDs and being able to swap the SSDs if I want to. So what I've been thinking is, okay, maybe I can just line these up with the hard disks. And if I then take the top cover plate, let me make sure that's correct. Yep. That kind of looks okay. So, how to mount them then? Well, if you look in here, they have plenty of space in the back for the power cabling. It takes 1x SATA and 2x SATA data, or 1x SATA power, so. And, well, I'm just going to use my tried and true method of double-sided sticky tape. This isn't a professional enterprise server. I don't recommend doing that with those, but this is just for some SSDs, which are actually in a metal enclosure mount, so heat shouldn't be a problem either. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, maybe this is overdoing it slightly, but yeah, I'm pretty sure these won't get loose anymore. Okay. Okay. So let's see how that looks. Yep. Looks pretty good. Does it interfere with the drive bay? No. All the drive bay mechanisms still work. Okay, unless I lift it up. So yeah, I'm going to stick those on, but I'm going to do that off camera because I, well, need to take a close look while doing that. So, see you in a bit. Okay, drive bays installed, and well, these are going nowhere. Let's see what it looks like with the top cover back on. Oh, as I forgot to mention, there's some cable routing holes here and here, so you can reach the SATA connector and the SATA and power connector easily. And this is how it looks when it's done. It doesn't interfere with the drive bays at all. And now we have our little 2.5-inch hot swap base. Cool. Okay, let's move on to looking at what you need to figure out in regards to cabling. So, we're going to use multiple types of cables in this build. First off, there's of course this stuff, and those will go through the cable mounting holes I showed you in the previous video. So that's basically down here. Not sure you can see that on the video. Maybe slightly. So I'm not too worried about these. These are like way too long, but it'll work. I am worried though. I'm going to be using 2 of these SAS RAID controllers, or rather, they're in IT mode, so they're basically SAS multi-port controllers, whatever you want to call them. So this is an LSI SAS 2008 based model. I already have another one in my old server, so I'm going to use both. And when everything is built in, it will sit around here. And the other one will sit around here. So, if we take that into account, we need to figure out how far it is from here, through the cable mounting hole, to one of these SFF 8087 connectors. So, to do that, most of the time I just use a little wire. This wire is 1 meter long. And then I just hold it in the place where it needs to go and route it to where I want to have it. So let's choose one of the cable holes, thread it through. So, as you can see here, this is way too long. So what we can do is if we say, okay, well, we're going to be plugging it in here, and then we're going to be plugging it in here. And you want to keep some slack space, but then you see we have about this amount of cable left. So if we take our ruler, okay, and it was about this much, yeah, so this cable was 1 meter, but we have 30 centimeters of slack. So we need something that's around 70 centimeters. Okay? I hope that makes sense. And some of the cables will also look like this, except not this one, because there's a difference. This is a forward breakout. So this is meant to go into your RAID controller and then into 4 SAS drives, or SATA drives in this case. But what I'm going to be using is a reverse breakout cable, and that's meant for plugging the SATA connections into your motherboard, and then plugging the SFF connector into your backplane, like so. Now I happen to have one of these cables lying around. Actually, I could use a different routing hole for that. So let's use this one, because I know on my motherboard it has 8 SATA connections over here. So I will use a reverse breakout to use one of these drive bays, and then the other 4 will go to these hot swap bays. But as you can see, this is a 60 centimeter cable, but we have plenty of slack here. So we could even go with a shorter cable because, well, you need to leave the slack somewhere. And luckily there's plenty of room here to be able to do that. So we'd be able to do it something like this. But if you know the length the cable needs to be, you can minimize slack and, well, having to prop up all these cables somewhere. So last thing I wanted to look at is power. And let me see if I can show you that. Well, almost. Each of these drive rails will need a Molex connector. So that's 5 Molex connectors. And then the fan controller, I'll show you that in the picture, also needs a Molex connector. And then of course, besides that, we also need all the other connectors your normal motherboard uses, stuff like that. And I'm going to be replacing these 80mm fans. I haven't tested them yet, but judging from my previous experience, these are going to move a lot of air. That's good, but also going to make a lot of noise. That's not what I want. So I'm probably going to replace everything with Noctuas. And, well, these have the fan controller I can hook up, so that's great. If you haven't seen what I did with my previous Intertech chassis, please check the video over here or in the description. And these I'm just going to hook up to a PWM splitter and then plug into the motherboard. So yeah, this is just a quick update video. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll put a link to these little drive bays in the description. And if you want to mount some SSDs, I think they're great value. I've used them in previous builds before, so I know they work well. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.